There's a feeling you know intimately. It lives in the quiet moments, just before sleep, or in the glaring light of a Monday morning. It's the feeling of a heavy, invisible weight. It's the weight of the project you can't start, the blank page staring back at you, a monument to your own inertia. It's the knot in your stomach when you think about that social event, the frantic search for an excuse to avoid it. It's the sudden, hot flash of anger that erupts over something trivial, a spilled coffee, a missed turn, an anger so disproportionate it frightens even you. And then there's the voice, that relentless inner critic, whispering or sometimes screaming that you are not good enough, that you are lazy, unfocused, broken, that you are weak, that we live in a world that worships strength, a world that tells us to just be positive, to push through it, to get over it. And so, when we feel this weight, we add another layer to it: shame. We feel ashamed of our anxiety, embarrassed by our procrastination, guilty about our anger. We believe these are character flaws, personal failings that we must hide or conquer. We declare war on ourselves, trying to amputate the parts of us we deem unacceptable. But what if this entire premise is wrong? What if I told you that these feelings, this perceived weakness, are not signs of flaw? What if they are actually signals, flares shot up from the deepest, most powerful, and untapped part of your psyche? What if the exhaustion you feel is the exhaustion of a soldier fighting a battle they were never trained for, in a war they were never told existed? What if you're not weak, but a warrior? Today, we journey into the depths of the human mind to reveal the nature of this unseen battle. We will introduce a concept from the pioneering psychologist Carl Jung, the shadow, and we will reframe your struggle. By the end of our time together, you will understand how to transform from a victim of your own psyche into what we will call a Jungian shadow warrior. And you will see why the very things you believe are your greatest weaknesses are, in fact, the source of your greatest strength. To understand this hidden battle, we must first meet its cartographer. His name was Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who ventured beyond the sunlit rooms of the conscious mind and into the vast, uncharted territories of the unconscious. Jung believed that the human psyche was not a single, unified thing, but a dynamic interplay of conscious and unconscious parts. Our conscious self, the part we think of as me, our ego, is just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a vast, powerful, and mysterious realm. And in the darkest, most hidden corner of that realm lives the shadow. So, what is the shadow? In the simplest terms, the shadow is the psychological basement of your personality. It's the dark, dusty cellar where you have thrown everything about yourself that you were taught was unacceptable. Think back to your childhood. Every time a parent, a teacher, or a friend said, "Don't be so loud," "Nice girls don't get angry," "Big boys don't cry," or "Stop daydreaming and be realistic," a small part of you was deemed unworthy. To gain love, to fit in, to survive, you learned to perform a kind of psychic surgery on yourself. You took that unacceptable part, your righteous anger, your boundless creativity, your vulnerable sadness, your wild spontaneity, and you locked it away in the unconscious. The shadow is the sum total of all these disowned parts. It's the collection of everything you've repressed because it didn't fit the idealized image of who you were supposed to be. It holds your unchristian rage, your unproductive laziness, your childish wonder, your shameful desires and ambitions. It is not inherently evil. It is simply what you have rejected. But as Jung wisely noted, what you resist persists. Repression doesn't make these parts disappear. It just makes them unconscious. And when they're unconscious, they don't go silent. They get louder. This is where your struggle begins. This is how the shadow manifests in your daily life, disguised as your greatest weaknesses. Consider your chronic procrastination. You call it laziness, a moral failing. But what if it isn't? What if it's your shadow self, the repressed artist or adventurer in you, rebelling against a life path that feels safe but soul-crushing? What if the procrastination is its way of screaming, "This is not the right battle. This is not our true calling"? It sabotages the work because the work is a cage. Think about your crippling social anxiety. You see it as a flaw, a sign of being awkward or unlikable. But what if that anxiety is the voice of a deeply sensitive, empathetic part of you that you were forced to disown? A part that was once wounded by rejection and now, from the shadows, screams in terror at the prospect of being hurt again. It paralyzes you not to be weak, but to protect you with the only tool it has: avoidance. What about those sudden, uncontrollable bursts of anger? You feel like a monster, out of control. But could this be the eruption of a lifetime of suppressed boundaries? The righteous anger of a part of you that has been saying no silently for years, a part that has been ignored, dismissed, and walked over, finally exploding because it has no other way to make itself heard. And then there's self-sabotage. The moment things start going well, in a relationship, in your career, you do something to mess it up. It feels like madness, like a deep-seated desire to fail. But this is often the shadow at work. It might be acting out a core belief you were given as a child, that you are unworthy of success. Or it could be a protective mechanism, a misguided attempt to shield you from the greater pain of a potential future failure. If you never truly succeed, you can never truly fall. These aren't weaknesses. These are communications. They are symptoms of a fractured self, the desperate attempts of your disowned parts to be seen, heard, and reintegrated. But the shadow has one more trick up its sleeve, perhaps its most cunning. It's a phenomenon Jung called projection. Because we cannot bear to see these disowned traits in ourselves, we become experts at spotting them in other people. We don't see our own shadow, so we see it everywhere else. Think about that person at work who infuriates you, the one you label as arrogant and attention-seeking. You find their confidence insufferable. Now, ask yourself honestly, was there a time in your life when your own confidence, your own desire to be seen, was shamed or shut down? Is it possible that their arrogance triggers you so intensely because it is a distorted reflection of a bold, self-assured part of yourself that you were forced to lock away in the basement? Or consider the opposite, the person you inexplicably admire, almost to the point of obsession. You see them as creative, free-spirited, and brave. This is also projection, a projection of your own latent potential. You are seeing your own disowned creativity, your own repressed freedom, your own forgotten courage, embodied in them. The people who trigger us, for better or for worse, are not just people. They are mirrors. They are messengers from our own unconscious, showing us the parts of ourselves we have yet to reclaim. They're showing us our shadow. So, we have a name for our invisible enemy. We have identified its tactics. The natural impulse, the one we've been taught our whole lives, is to fight it, to arm ourselves with discipline, positive thinking, and willpower, and to descend into that basement to slay the dragon once and for all. But this is the old, failed battle. This is the war of repression that created the shadow in the first place. Fighting against the shadow only makes it stronger. This is where the paradigm shifts. This is where we redefine what it means to be a warrior. A Jungian shadow warrior does not fight to destroy the shadow. A shadow warrior fights for wholeness. Their enemy is not anger or fear or laziness. Their enemy is unconsciousness. Their battle is not one of annihilation, but of integration. Their courage is not measured by their aggression, but by their profound willingness to turn around, walk into the dark basement of their own psyche, and simply listen. The battlefield is not out there in the world. It is your inner landscape. The monsters you face are not external threats. They're your own disowned feelings, your abandoned potentials, your forgotten selves. And the goal? The goal is to bring these lost parts into the light of your consciousness, to acknowledge them, to understand their origins, and to reintegrate their energy back into your whole self. Because here is the great secret of this work, the alchemical truth at the heart of Jung's psychology. The shadow is not just a repository of pain and trauma. It is also a treasure chest. It contains pure gold. Jung believed that every part of us we repress holds a tremendous amount of psychic energy. When a trait is in the shadow, that energy is locked and it expresses itself in destructive, distorted ways. But when we consciously integrate that trait, we unlock its energy and reclaim its power in a mature, constructive form that let's call this reclaiming the gold. Consider the anger you were taught to suppress. In the shadow, it festers, erupting as uncontrollable rage, passive aggression, or bitter cynicism. But if you have the courage to meet that anger, to listen to it, you will find its hidden gold. The gold within anger is the power of boundaries. It's the energy for justice. An integrated warrior doesn't become an angry person. They become a person who can say no with calm authority. They become passionate advocates for themselves and others, using that fire not to burn, but to illuminate and protect. Think of the fear you have labeled as weakness or cowardice. In the shadow, it manifests as paralyzing anxiety and avoidance. But what is its gold? The gold within fear is prudence. It is intuition. It's the wisdom to pause, to plan, to sense danger before it arrives. The warrior who has integrated their fear doesn't become fearless. They become discerning. They learn to listen to their gut feelings, using fear as a trusted advisor, not a tyrannical master. What about the deep sadness you were told to get over? In the shadow, it becomes a dull, persistent depression or a feeling of numbness. But when you allow yourself to sit with that sadness, to honor its grief, you discover its profound gold: empathy. The capacity for deep connection. It is our own acknowledged sorrow that allows us to truly connect with the suffering of others. The warrior who embraces their sadness becomes a healer, a compassionate friend, a person whose presence brings comfort because they are not afraid of the dark. And finally, what about that part you call your laziness? The part that just wants to do nothing. In the shadow, it drives procrastination and self-loathing. But if you integrate it, you find its crucial gold: the power of rest, the wisdom of being, not just doing. In our frantic, productivity-obsessed world, this lazy part is the guardian of your energy, your creativity, and your soul. The warrior who befriends this part learns the sacred rhythm of effort and surrender, and in doing so, becomes far more effective and resilient than the one who tries to burn themselves out. This is the code of the shadow warrior. You're not meant to slay the dragon. You're meant to learn from it, to listen to its wisdom, and ultimately, to reclaim the treasure it has been guarding all along. Understanding the theory is like looking at a map. But a map is useless if you don't take the first step. This part is not about theory. It is about practice. It is the here's why part of our promise. This is your training manual. The path of a shadow warrior is not easy. It requires courage, patience, and a radical form of self-honesty. But it is a clear path. We can break it down into 3 fundamental skills, or what we will call the 3 arts of shadow integration. Art 1, the art of acknowledgement, the scout's mission. Before you can engage with the shadow, you must first learn to see it. This is the reconnaissance phase. Your mission is not to judge, fix, or fight anything. Your mission is simply to observe, to gather intelligence. The first step is the hardest. You must stop running. When a difficult feeling arises, anxiety, jealousy, shame, your lifelong habit is to distract yourself, to numb it, to push it away. The warrior's first act of courage is to do the opposite, to stop, take a breath, and just allow the feeling to be there for a moment without acting on it. Next, you must become a master at identifying your projections. Your emotional reactions to other people are your most valuable clues. Start a new kind of journal. For 1 week, pay close attention to anyone who elicits a strong reaction from you. Ask yourself, who infuriates me? What specific trait in them triggers my anger or judgment? E.g., his arrogance, her laziness. Who do I secretly judge or feel contempt for? E.g., they're so needy, they're such a people pleaser. Who do I intensely admire or envy? E.g., she's so confident and free. Next to each observation, write this question: what part of this person might also be in me, in a hidden or disowned form? Don't look for a literal one-to-one match. If you judge someone for being lazy, it might point to your own repressed need for rest. If you are irritated by someone's arrogance, it might point to your own disowned ambition. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about using the outside world as a mirror for your inner one. Finally, learn to notice your emotional triggers. Think of a disproportionate emotional reaction as a flare signal from your shadow. When you find yourself getting incredibly angry about being cut off in traffic or feeling a wave of debilitating shame over a small mistake, see it for what it is. A messenger from the deep. Don't get swept away by the story. Instead, create a little space and say to yourself, ah, there it is again. The anger is here. The shame is here. Interesting. This simple act of noticing, of labeling without judgment, is the foundation of all that follows. It is how you begin to separate yourself from the emotion and start to see it as an object of curiosity. Art 2. The art of dialogue. Meeting the dragon. Once you can spot the shadow's manifestations, the next step is to engage with them. This is not a conversation you have with your rational mind. This is a dialogue with the unconscious, and it requires a different language, the language of symbol, feeling, and imagination. First, learn to personify the feeling. Instead of saying, I am angry, which creates a total identification, try saying, the angry part of me is here. This simple shift in language creates a crucial separation. You are the conscious self, the container, who is observing this part. This allows you to approach it with curiosity instead of being consumed by it. The primary tool for this dialogue is active imagination, often done through journaling. This is a technique pioneered by Jung. Find a quiet time when you won't be disturbed. Take one of the feelings or behaviors you identified in the first stage, your procrastination, your anxiety, your inner critic. Close your eyes for a moment and allow that part to take on a form. It could be an image, a creature, a person, a shape, a color. There is no right or wrong answer. Just accept the first thing that comes to mind. Now, open your journal and begin a written dialogue. Ask the questions. Be respectful. Be curious. You might ask, what is your name? What do you want from me? What are you trying to protect me from? What happened to you that made you feel this way? What do you need from me to feel seen and heard? Write down whatever answers come to mind, without censoring or judging them. It might feel silly at first, but you're speaking the language of the psyche. The answers you receive can be astonishingly profound. You may discover that your procrastination is a young, scared part of you terrified of failure. You may find your inner critic is a distorted version of a parental voice, trying to protect you from judgment by judging you first at a briefer, but potent, method is dream work. Dreams are the unvarnished language of the unconscious. The shadow often appears in our dreams as threatening or dark figures who chase us. The warrior's approach to such a dream is not to run faster, but to find the courage, within the dream or upon waking, to turn and ask the figure, what do you want? Keep a dream journal by your bed. Record your dreams upon waking. Look for recurring themes, figures, and feelings. They are all messages from your inner world. Art 3. The art of integration, reclaiming the gold. Observation and dialogue are essential, but the final step is integration. This is where you consciously bring the shadow's energy back into your life in a healthy and constructive way. It's about embodying the gold you've discovered. Integration is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice of conscious expression that lets use our earlier examples. If you've dialogued with your oppressed anger and understood its need for boundaries, integration means you start practicing saying no. You don't have to become an aggressive person. You start small. You say no to a small request you don't have time for. You calmly state your opinion in a meeting. You are consciously channeling that reclaimed energy into acts of self-respect. That is integrated anger, that if you've discovered that your social anxiety is a wounded, sensitive part of you, integration isn't about suddenly becoming the life of the party. It's about taking small, conscious steps to honor that part. It might mean choosing smaller gatherings over large ones. It might mean allowing yourself to leave early. It also means bringing that reclaimed empathy into your conversations, transforming your fear of being judged into a powerful ability to listen and connect deeply with one or two people that, if you've reclaimed the useless creative part that was driving your procrastination. Integration means you buy a sketchbook. You sign up for pottery class. You're at a single page of that novel. You don't have to quit your job and become a full-time artist. You're simply making a conscious space for that vital energy in your life, allowing it to nourish you and make you more whole. Throughout this entire process, you must wield your most essential weapon, self-compassion. This journey is messy. You will make mistakes. You will fall back into old patterns. The inner critic, the guardian of the old order, will tell you you're failing. The warrior's greatest strength is the ability to treat themselves with kindness through this process. Self-compassion is the shield that protects you as you do this brave work. It is the healing balm you apply to the old wounds you uncover. Without it, shadow work can become just another form of self-flagellation. With it, it becomes a profound act of self-love. We began this journey by standing in the heavy presence of what you called your weakness. We looked at the procrastination, the anxiety, the anger, the self-sabotage, and the crushing voice of the inner critic. We felt the shame of it all, the exhaustion of the constant losing battle against yourself. And then we reframed the entire war. We learned that these were not flaws, but flares, signals from the disowned parts of you, your shadow, crying out for attention. We discovered that this shadow, this dragon in your basement, was not an enemy to be slain, but a guardian of a forgotten treasure. A treasure chest filled with the gold of your passion, your intuition, your empathy, and your true potential. We learned the warrior's code. To turn and face the darkness not with a sword of aggression, but with the light of curiosity. To acknowledge, to dialogue, and finally, to integrate. To weave the dark threads back into the tapestry of the self, making it stronger, richer, and more complete. Here lies the ultimate paradox of strength. True strength is not the absence of fear, but the courage to walk alongside it. It is not the absence of sadness, but the capacity to hold it with compassion. It is not the absence of anger, but the wisdom to channel its fire constructively. The shadow warrior is not invincible. They're not perfect. They are authentic. They are whole. Your struggles have not been evidence of your weakness. They have been your call to adventure. Your pain has not been a punishment. It has been a map leading you back to the lost territories of your own soul. The peace you seek is not found in victory over yourself, but in reunion with yourself. The strength you have been searching for has been within you all along, locked away in the very places you were taught to fear. The battle is not out there. It is in here, and you are not weak. You are a warrior who has just been handed the map. The journey begins now, not with a vow of self-mastery, not with a clenched fist, but with a gentle, courageous question. What part of myself am I ready to meet today? Begin now. Be brave. Be whole.